And that was the Passage RDA, a collaboration between Hellvape and Suck My Mod, Matt, who I was fortunate enough to meet very briefly at Expo, so it was good to meet you, buddy, if you're watching this. We'll see. Right, let's get straight to it, okay, and start with styling and feel. I was lucky enough to get hold of the purple one, which I quite liked. I quite like that there's a purple option. There's loads of colours available, so that's good to see as well. So here we go. Let's start right at the top. Okay, this is the AG Plus drip tip, the antibacterial drip tip that Hellvape are going on about. Yeah, it feels like every other drip tip I've ever tried. It's nice and smooth, nice and tidy. Typical 810. You can use other 810s. I have used other 810s in this. They all work fine. But yeah, the drip tip and the little ring below it, you can see, they just match the rest of the RDA beautifully. So I think it looks pretty sweet. It looks a bit industrious. It looks a bit hefty, a bit sturdy. It is kind of, with these slots here, it just looks bulky, and I quite like the look of it. I quite like that industrial kind of look. So it looks good, and it does feel good. Everything fits together real nice. Everything's nice and tidy. It's really well machined, really well put together. I'll go onto the build deck and carry on from this machining I'm talking about. You've seen on the close-ups, everything is really nicely machined. It looks good. There's nothing nasty, nothing dirty, no horrible swirly marks. You do have them kind of swirly machining marks in it, but it's tidy, really nicely done. So it looks really beautiful, especially close up like you've just seen. It come out really well on camera. I was quite pleased with that. So let's carry on talking about the build deck. So like I say, you've got this two-post design, and you have this option where you could obviously put your cores straight in on the top or the bottom of each post, or if you have cores are slightly staggered, you can use that rolling barrel to slot one above and one below. Of course, with just having the two posts and two cores, it is a little bit fiddly trying to trim them down, but just use your coily tool. Use your coily tool, slot your cores in, screw it up. You won't have any overhang, so you limit your chances of having any shorts. So that worked beautifully with a coily. It's really simple to build on. Yeah, I mean, you can obviously have it in single core mode if you like. I went for a very standard build, nothing too exciting, nothing too fancy, and I was trying to replicate what I have on my general day-to-day RDA, which is the Drop Dead, Hellvape Drop Dead, and the build I put in this is exactly what I put in my Drop Dead every day. And the reason for that was I really wanted to compare it to another Hellvape RDA, because I love the Drop Dead RDA, and I want to see how this would compare. So that's the reason for doing that. Wicking. Well, yeah, it's an RDA. It wicks real nice. You get a nice deep well in this RDA, so you've got plenty of room for your cotton, plenty of room for the juice to soak up. You can drip and drip and drip away, and there's plenty of room to have loads of cotton and soak all that lovely juice up. Airflow, okay, so the airflow is the big thing with this dripper. Let's take that out so you can see. I know you've seen it down low already. Now this does get all nice and gooey and juicy when it goes in there, but the airflow is very clever. And what I like about it is, obviously, as you take a draw, it pulls in and it drops down a bit, then it goes through that honeycomb airflow holes straight onto a coil. And as you adjust that, so now if you can see there, I've got just like one part open. The slots that are on show that are allowing air to hit that coil, they're still fairly central to the coil, so it's quite a clever design for that aspect. And with the airflow, I've generally had 2 out of the 3 slots in use like that, because if it is all the way open, I found it really airy. But then again, that does depend on what build you have in it. If you had bigger cores, maybe more cotton, you might want that airflow all the way open and it will suit you quite nice. But for me, 2 out of the 3 open, this works beautifully. Maintenance, I have found it's a tad bit messy at times, but that's probably user error. What gets messy is, for me to drip, I'm not a big fan of just dripping straight up in the drip tip. I like to take that off, and then when you slot that in, because this gets all juicy and messy, when you slide that in, you tend to get a little bit running off the top. I've done it now. I've got greasy fingers. But it's not a biggie. It's a minor con. It's just something. Again, it's just user. It's my preferred way to top this up with juice is I like to take the top cap off and fill it up. Flavor and clouds. Okay, let's give it a little bash. The coil came out at 0.37 with 2 coils, sorry, 76 watts. Let's go. Like I say, I've kind of been comparing this to the Hellvape Drop Dead purely because that's my old day. I love Hellvape products. So I wanted to see how this would compare. I'm going to give it a go again. Right, so the first thing to say, it's obviously cloudy, even with the build I've got in it. I love that kind of build, it suits me beautifully. The flavour is not quite as good as something like the Drop Dead in my personal opinion. Now again, that depends on your build, how you set them coils. You can take the coils up a little bit more, you know, that kind of thing. But the flavour isn't quite at the Drop Dead level for me personally, but it is very good. It is a very good flavour. I'm noticing a slightly sweeter note with this. Now that might be because your coils are slightly lower down, so I'm not getting quite as much flavour, but I am getting some of the sweetness through, which I don't get with other RDAs. So that's been quite nice. It's been quite nice to try some of the juices that aren't sweet, and this dripper for me has been bringing out a bit more of the sweetness. So that's been nice. That's Flavouring Clouds. Give me your final thoughts. Right, there's a couple of things I do want to mention that I like and I dislike. So the first like would be to do with this drip tip being this antibacterial drip tip. I'm not quite sure exactly what it means. Does that mean I can pass it around and I'm not going to catch what everyone else is caught? I don't know. But it's nice to know that they're thinking of these kind of things, and you know, it means I could hopefully, if someone wants to try this, I can just let them have a try and I'm not going to catch all their germs. So I like that. I do like the airflow. I like the way it works. Like I say, when it's all open, it is really airy, but that depends on your build. You might have a bigger build in there, might limit that airflow a little bit more. So play around with that. The two big cons for me, and they're not big cons, they're more minor cons, but they're just personal preferences. The first thing I don't like is the fact that this lip is so sharp. Now, not sharp like it's going to cut you, but it's sharp. When you rest your lips on there, you can feel this, and it's just a bit uncomfortable on your mouth. And the second thing is more to do with the barrel itself. I don't know how well you can see that. You can see my lovely build in there. This barrel is so thin that this RDA gets real hot real quick. And I'm comparing it, like I say, unfortunately I am comparing it to the Drop Dead. And I'll try and show you, this will take a minute. I'll try and show you the barrel. Now the barrel's not much thicker on the Drop Dead, but it does make a difference. It's 0.5 millimeter. I don't know how well you can see that. Hopefully you can. It's 0.5 millimeter probably, maybe even less. But that 0.5 millimeter makes a massive difference. I've been vaping on the Drop Dead 75 watts, 0.35 build, so very similar to this on the Passage, and it builds up, the heat builds up too quick. So you take a couple of pulls and it's bloody hot. It's hot. So maybe that's something they can work on. Just 0.5 millimeter, that's all you need. That's all you need, and it'll probably limit that heat. Apart from that, it's a cracking RDA. It's superbly well machined. It's well put together. The build deck and how that works is easier than a standard 2-post build. It is still not my preferred type of deck, but the idea is really clever. I really like the idea. I think it's been done very well. It's trustworthy as well with them screws. They're decent. It's lovely, beautifully put together. The deck, the RDA, the whole thing is well manufactured, well machined. So well done to Hellvape, well done to Matt, Suck My Mod, great job. If I was to give this a score out of 10, I'd probably give it a 8 out of 10, which I think is pretty good. Like I say, it's not quite up there with the flavour from the Drop Dead, which I keep going on about is my favourite, but it is, can't help it, sorry. But it's still a great RDA, and this is going to be in my rotation definitely for however long until another good one comes along. Well, I hope that was helpful, guys. If it was, hit that like button or subscribe if you fancy it. And don't forget to click the little bell and get notified when all my latest videos come out. I'm FlatCap Vaper. Thanks for watching.